So. Okay, man. No, that's good. If you want to do is when you turn on the TV. Then you want to make sure that you want to, so we'll have this. What we have achieved now is a lot of it, what you do not achieve is if the speaker wants to share screen further, these materials have to be on system, which you have. You see, and you need to have a lot of. You have to get the support of right. And then which Zoom. Okay, so we're getting. Until quarter to 11. And you can see a few more minutes of the application. Oh, okay. Because I have a lot of. Yeah, let's say 1 hour and 10 minutes. Oh, okay. Yeah, so 1 hour is the bother.
If you want to spend on your laptop? That's a lot of questions. Sorry.
It's based on frame. All right, so good one, enough. He got angry. There's only one. Let's see if they even have batteries. So basically. First light doesn't give you the right. That's what was going on. But the question is, okay, he wanted it, but he didn't really want. But when wrong with it, we didn't want to be distracted. Right. This one. Here we. This is. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone here. I'm really, really glad that you made it. I'm also happy to see our friends on Zoom. It's hard to believe that this is really the very last stretch of our Follow the Bagel first semester. After a really incredible, amazing journey with many guest speakers of different denominations, of different venues of life, of different fields of knowledge, and this journey that we have together as the Bagel turns and rolls on and on, I think reflects not only our commitment to learning and curiosity, which is a very basic Jewish value, but also to pluralism of thought and having sincere and deep relation with our neighbors of different denominations and faiths. It is no coincidence that the powers that be that have to organize these series have included 3 different Muslim speakers this semester. Not only because Islam and Judaism are sister religions that have grown side by side for many, many generations, but also because I think that it is our prerogative, the religious imperative and prerogative, and especially in times like these, as all the world's events that we here in Rochester, New York, and in the United States demonstrate how our communities can live together side by side in friendship and partnership and mutual learning and respect. So I know it sounds very bombastic, Imam. The real reason why you're here again, you're also the only speaker who spoke last year and came back. And I'll tell you, and after all this high talk, I want to say that
It means
that
that
you
it wasn't complete.
yeah, that you actually, yeah, we didn't understand you the first time. So what were you mumbling in Arabic there? We wanted to make sure we understand. So I want to say that actually you're back because of a public demand. Because if I still recall last year, you were telling us amazing things about Moses and different things, but you said, oh, but if you want to hear an amazing thing about Joseph, that's even more interesting in the Jewish religion. And this week's weekly parsha that we read, that all the Jewish people read around the world in the coming Shabbat, is going to be the beginning of the fairy tales of Moses in the Bible, of Joseph in the Bible, in the book of Genesis. And therefore, we are fascinated to hopefully be hearing from you about the amazing stories and lessons that we can learn from the Quran and the Hadith and the Muslim tradition about Joseph. And from here, I don't want to take any more of your time because we're already a little bit late. I wish us all a wonderful lecture, and I'm going to hand the mic to you.
I think he could space.
So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction and for the compliment. And thank you for the second time you're inviting me. So it means that we have a lot to go. You know, it's a very interesting story when it comes to Joseph in the Quran, the best story. The Quran highlights from the beginning. So we reveal to you the best story ever. So what is the best story? When you ask any Muslim, and they will tell you the story of Joseph. And also, there are a lot of skewed questions, you know, in Muslim countries. The question is like this, like, who is the man in the history who was a prophet? The father was a prophet. The grandfather was a prophet, and also great-grandfather was a prophet, the golden lineage. Joseph, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, and the son of Abraham. You see, it's very interesting. So he's the only one carries that golden lineage. You know, he's a prophet, son of prophet, and son of prophet, and all prophets. So in the beginning, when you look at the story, and you don't want to be in his shoes, right? When it comes to Joseph and his story, and you don't want your loved ones also, not you, your own sons and daughters, you don't want to be in his shoes. But when it comes to the end, and everyone wants to be in his shoes. So the story begins with the dream. So I know it is also in Torah the same story, but we have you know, some differences. So I'm going to highlight those differences as well. So whatever you know is in the Quran, and also the pieces that the Torah mentions, and we may not have it, some of them in the Quran also. And I remember, like I was saying with one brother here, like over 20 years ago, we were having a picnic, interfaith picnic back in Pittsburgh. You know, I believe it was back in 2004, but 21 years ago. And the rabbi, he asked me questions about Joseph in the Quran. Since then, and I was interested to know, so what does Torah says about Joseph? And he was asking me about the numbers of the brothers, and also the prostrations at the end. And and how many of them, the numbers. Yeah, I know, Jewish faith, so it's more about the details. So many details. And as Rabbi Zohar was mentioning that, what curiosity is also the fundamental teaching of Judaism. Then we were talking about Joseph, and I said, what interesting. Then today, after 21 years later, so we're talking about Joseph and from Quranic perspective, and also I did some study, check the similarities, between Quran and versus the Torah, and why it is a best story, because it covers like every aspect of life, anything we live today, and you will find in Joseph's story, at least the basic ones. And you will find jealousy in the family, between siblings, and how to manage that as a parent, how to manage the jealousy, so that jealousy may lead to a crime between the siblings. So it is parents' responsibilities to, reduce or minimize the jealousy within the family members. That is very interesting also. And betrayal. And you have always see the news, especially between the brothers and sisters. So when it comes to inheritance, and if you want to know whether your brother or your sister is good to you, then you will come to know when your rich parents pass away, right? Then you will come to know then which one will get the most. So so we have that, and the separation. That's a brutal truth that we live each and every day. Parents, they lose their kids. And the reaction of father,
Admit someone who's waiting.
okay.
All right.
So I can do it next time. So if I remember.
We'll remind you.
Okay. The separation when it comes to Joseph, like when his father was told that, this is also one of the differences. Your son was eaten by the wolf. Also this one is in the Torah. And the Quran mentions that they placed him in a well instead of killing him. The initial plan was to kill him, but like one brother said, okay, this is also the identical teaching, both in the Quran, but except Quran does not mention the name of the brother. So rather the Torah mentions the name of the brother. So when he was informed, and he says that the first reaction, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ, the Quranic term, the beautiful patience. I have nothing else other than being patient. That is the reaction. So what can you do other than that, practically? Are you going to commit suicide? No. That is another sin. So you cannot do that. And you have to bear all the pains, rather expect, instead of doing anything else, expect the good result from God. And he says that, you know, the second time happens also when his another son was taken from him, but this time, and he was being captive because he was accused of stealing. So then he says that again, this time he repeats the same thing. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ, patience. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. Anything you describe, and God is my, helper. I have nothing else other than relying on my Creator. Nothing. And He sees everything. He is the control He has a control of everything, over everything. This is what he says. Then, so what else we have? Oh, temptation. You know what? This is also, especially now, Joseph, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he says that لقد أعطي شطر جمال المخلوقات. He was so handsome that he was given the half of the world's beauty. So ladies, they couldn't control themselves. So, so I was, teasing young ladies, and I said, you know what? When you see that much handsome boy, and you cannot control yourself also, that is tough. And it's and another thing, and I was telling this is like I want to give you something else, give you some break in between. So I was working at the mosque, very in South Africa, very expensive material being used, millions of dollars, and was built by one man. And this man was billionaire, and he did not accept anything from anyone. And he said, you know what, I promised to my Lord that I wanted to build by myself for his sake. So I'm not going to ask anything from other people. This is my promise to my Lord. So it's an attraction place in South Africa. People used to come and visit, and I was giving sometimes tour to the visitors. Group of ladies came from nursing home. They can barely walk. But when I told them, about this man, so rich man, so one lady, so with a cane in her hand, and she was asking me, like, is he married? Is he married? And I said, yes, ma'am. He is married. Then she asks another question. She says, how can I kill his wife? So it was a joke. Then I went to him and this rich man, and I said, you know what? Be careful. I'm told his wife also. Just watch yourself. This is. And I remember that he passed away now, both and his wife as well. And he said, why you didn't tell her that, you know what? When we get married, that is a lifetime commitment. It's a lifetime commitment. So when we find money, we don't find someone else. So he was a poor man initially. They grew together, and some people, you know, they do that. But when it comes to him, like he was so good that he said, you know what, is nothing, but the loyalty is everything. So this is again, money and the beauty is attractive, not only from lady side, from men's side too. So and we have also we say that temptation of opposite gender, opposite sex, so attractive. You know, people sometimes fall into traps. That's it, not sometimes, you know, like we say, we ask God to protect us from any temptations that we cannot bear. That is very tough, but that's everyday business. But he says something when a lady closes the door, then this is his master. And he's being enslaved, and was sold to the Egyptian family. So prior to that, also there is something that, you know, so I need to mention the differences also as well, like from Quranic perspective. But let me finish this, the temptations. And she closes the doors, not only one door, so many doors, more than 3 doors. وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. The Quran says she locks the doors. Then she says, وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ. She says, you know what? Come. Now you don't have an option to choice to leave. Come to me. And the initial response of Joseph, قال معاذ الله. I seek protection in my Lord. إنه ربي أحسن مثواي. Okay, also, he is my Lord, and he did so much good to me. When is he saying this? You know what? His brothers left him to die, like in a wall, to die. Then he's being sold to different families, then also enslaved, and he's still thanking God. You know, whenever and I say, you know what, when I remember Joseph, and I say, if I go to grocery store, if I cannot find the bread type that I'm looking for, if I don't find it, and I said, what is going on? Right? And sometimes people say, what the hell is going on, right? And you have a lot of different varieties, not only one thing that you cannot find in that particular store, but still you're complaining, come on. But when it comes to Joseph, at that moment, he's thanking God and remembering the favors of God upon him, even at that moment. Look at the level of faith in God. Then he says, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. You know, when it comes to God, and he is not going to forgive the oppressors. So if I do something wrong, commit an adultery, and even though it is forbidden, and I'll be wronging to my creator and also my master. So I cannot do that. And I'll be an oppressor if I do that. Then, you know, this lady, but he was trying to run. He was trying to run, but cannot do anything. And she rips his, t-shirts from the back sides. Then he was trying to find a way to leave, then finds her husband at the door. She was so good manipulating the stories. Then she says, you know what? What is the punishment of a person who's trying to wrong your family? Then, there was no immediate punishment. Then the rumor circulated. So in that locality, in that city, whatever you want to call, and people were talking about that lady. So that lady, the Quran says, Imra'atul Aziz. Imra'atul Aziz, meaning maybe the wife of king. The wife of king. So the wife of king, and the king comes, then there is no imprisonment right away. So they call someone like to judge. So what is wrong? The judge comes and he says that, you know what? They tell the story, and Joseph is telling the story. What happened? Then the man says that the judge says that, you know what? If the t-shirt is being ripped off from the front side, then you know what? That is his fault. But it's from the back side, then her fault. So it's obvious. Then still, she insists that he must be put in prison because he did not accept, not because of that, he did not accept her invitation. That is tough. But ladies were talking. They say, you know what? Look at the wife of king. No, she was trying to seduce like her maid, slave boy. And she was trying to prove that, you know what? She didn't do anything wrong. Any woman could do the same in virtues. She invites other ladies, then give them a knife and also piece of fruit. Then at that moment invites Joseph to enter that room. He's a slave man. He has to obey her, right? Then the moment he enters the room, the ladies, they were saying, Ma hada bashara, this cannot be human. In hada illa malakun karim. And this could be an angel. And in this capacity, the handsome, the beauty, then they started cutting their hands. The Quran says they started cutting their hands, and they were not conscious. They were concentrating, focusing on Joseph. And she, by the way, the king's wife proved that, you know what, it wasn't in her hand to control herself. But you know what? Ladies can convince their husband easily. This is the right reality also, right? So husbands, regardless of their positions, regardless of their positions, whether you're a king or a layman, or I'm not going to say anything about rabbi, but I can say about myself, you know what? If my wife does not agree with anything and I cannot do anything opposite, you know what? I have to, listen to her. She can convince me easily. So any wife can convince their husbands. You know what, there might be exceptions. I don't know if there is any exceptions also. Excuse me. So he's been placed in prison. Then he stays in prison, and there are two young men comes to him in the prison, inmates, other inmates, and they see dreams. Each one have a different dreams. So I'm not going to go into details of the dreams. And he turns into one, and both of them, and he says that, you know what? That's, they tell him, you know what, we see a righteous man. Tell us about these dreams, the interpretation of the dream. And nothing, no one else can tell us except you. Why don't you tell us? And he says that. Also, there's a big lesson for everyone here. And he says, you know what? First, I'm going to talk to you about something else. You know what? Your issue, consider it done. I have given you knowledge, and I can tell you, before you get the meal, what kind of meal you will be served here. And not because of me, because Allah, God grant me this knowledge. But let me tell you about God, oneness of God. And he starts telling these inmates, friends, about God. And how, obvious mistakes to believe in multiple gods. Monotheism, pure monotheism. And he's teaching them. Then, first, after he's finishing his own agenda, and he says that, you know what? One will be serving the king. After leaving this prison, will be serving the king. Will be very close to the king. The second one will be executed. Second one will be executed. And he says that, you know what? Make sure when you go to your king, mention to him about me. And the Quran says, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. You know what? And this inmate friend, when he starts being around the king, and he forgets Joseph. Luxury life makes you forget your friends. And you say, you know what, I don't know you anymore. Like prison, I don't even remember my days in prison. People, once they receive promotions, unfortunately, they forget everything. But this friend, also the same thing forgets about Joseph's reminder. He says, you know what? Mention to your king about me, so I can be beneficial for the society. Beneficial for the society. By the way, his intention was not a luxury life, rather to teach people about God, oneness of God. These are the prophets, selected people, chosen people. So, what happens? The king has a dream also. I know this is also in the Torah, but the same thing. And also the 7 cows, skinny ones, and eats the fat ones. Then multiple times, seeing the same dream, then he says, you know what? Who's going to tell me about the interpretation of this dream? Then the one who serves the ex-inmate remembers Joseph. And he tells the king, you know what? There's such person, it's proven that one was executed, like my friend, my other friend, and he informed me that I will be in your circle serving you. So he says, you know what? Immediately bring him to me. Then when he told them about the dream, that the friend comes and he says, you know what? The king is inviting you. And he says, you know what? No. And he says, he's not coming out. And he says, you know what? First accusation must be cleared out. You know what? There was rumors, and there's a differences here. I believe that the Torah mentions that immediately, if I'm not mistaken, right? Immediately comes out from jail. But he says that, you know what? The rumors that was placed against me, that I was trying to attend, adultery, and that must be cleared first. And the lady must admit her mistake. So she's in a tough situation now, right? So because this man is supported by divine wisdom, so then she comes to her senses that, you know what? أنا راودته عن نفسه وإنه لمن الصادقين. I'm the one who did everything. He's from the truthful ones. So that rumors, the accusations was cleared out, and she admits that he had nothing to do with the accusations, rather it was her mistake. Then the king, he says that, you know what? And you will be around me exclusively for my service. You will serve in the government. And the Joseph says, you know what? Put me in charge of treasury. Like today's, like a ministry, finance ministry, you may say. So he was in charge of like central bank money. He's the one who controls everything, but he's not the king. The king still is in charge, but when it comes to practicality, money and everything was under Joseph, and he's asking a position. So in our traditions, we're not allowed to jump in, you know what? Put me in charge. I'm the best. We should be humble. So there's an exception, we say there's an exception. If you see that position cannot be filled with anyone except you at that moment, you may say, you know what? I could do this one, and you can ask for that position. You can ask for that position. Otherwise, you can, we're not allowed to say, I'm the best. So I'm the best. When you go for a job interview, you have to say, I'm the best, right? But I had a lot of, interviews, and I was telling them, you know what? I'm not the best. So I'm not the best. And I was warned by a couple of people. So I was new here at that time. So I'm talking about over 20 years ago. And the kid told me that, you know what, you don't say this. You don't say this one. Rather, you can make a balance. You can say, you can mention about your qualities, and then let them decide. And I said, you know what? It is against my religion to claim that I'm the best one. right? Even though I have qualifications, so I have memorized the entire Quran, and I have a lot of experience. Still, I cannot say I'm the best. So I'm the best, even though I cannot claim that I'm the best. But maybe in that locality, you may say that you know what I can be the best fit for this job. Then I was saying that I'm not the best, but I have these qualifications that wise men taught me a good lesson. So Joseph is asking, saying for that position, Inni hafidun alim, he says that. So I have knowledge about this field and also trustworthy. When you put someone, not a trustworthy person in charge, what happens? He may distribute the wealth to wrong people. And we see this one in third world countries. Third world countries. The government is ripped off by crook people. Why? The crook people are sitting there and trying to manage the treasures. Unfortunately, it's happening. But he says that, what? I have to make sure that the 7 years of famine is waiting for us, and we have to save enough grains and everything to serve the people, to serve the humanity. So put me in charge. So that's why we say that because of the teaching of Joseph, we say that, what? That is allowed. But when you see no one else the best fit for that position, and you can ask for that position. So what happens from being inmate? So yesterday he was an inmate, and today, and he's a minister. He's a minister, and he can do whatever he wants to do. Big change. Immediately big change. Then the God says in the Quran, you know what? If you have God consciousness, if you connect yourself with God, and He can, switch your position, even if you're in the worst position today, worst circumstances, tomorrow won't be the same. But even if it is not happening in this world, it will happen in the hereafter. That is God. The promise of God will take place regardless. Then Joseph, so he's running the government now, basically, like all the financial affairs, then under his control. Then his brothers in terrible situations, and including his father. There's a famine going on, but Egypt, they have, prepared themselves, because of Joseph's vision, and they have stored food, and his brothers are coming to Joseph. But prior to that, Jacob is telling them, you know what? So many young brothers, and he's afraid that something may happen to them. And he says that, you know what? When you enter the king's place, don't use the same door. Enter from different doors. From different doors. And you're not coming there to harm people, basically, less people. So I remember, like, when I was a student, they said, you know what, don't work as a group, and the government may see you like as a threat. Because when you come together, this is what happens in third world countries, dictatorships. They are afraid that once you come together, they say, what if the circle gets bigger and bigger and that becomes a threat for us, we may lose our position here. So he says that, enter from a different doors. So the moment they enter, Joseph recognized them. But he says nothing. But they don't recognize him. Big change. Yesterday he was a small boy. Today he's a grown-up man, a mature man, running the government. And they were thinking that he was already dead. So he doesn't say anything to them, but he says, I'm not going to give you anything unless you bring me your younger brother. They say, okay, since you're hungry, you're, in terrible situation, you need food. In old days, it wasn't like us, like we cannot imagine that desperation of the people at that time. Nowadays, so even if people, if you don't find grocery stores open for 1 month, anything we stored in our homes will be enough for us a couple of months, right? So we are so much blessed. We have everything. We have everything. Not only one variety, so many varieties. But at that time, people, they didn't have that luxury. So they say, yes, we need to go back to our father, and demand to give us, younger brother. Then when they approach their father, they say, why don't you give us? Because the king or the minister demands our brother as well. Then the father says that, this time you have to promise me. We have a bad experience. So this time you have to promise me that you will protect him. Then they promised him. Then they take the younger brother, Benjamin, with them. Then this time when he sees the younger brother, and he goes to him and he says, anything happens, don't worry. You don't have to worry. I'm your brother. And he's telling the younger brother that, nothing will happen to you. أنا أخوك فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يعملون. Like anything they do to you, don't worry. There's a plot going on. So they receive anything they want, but ثم أذن مؤذن أيتها العير إنكم لسارقون. What? Someone, they study their case. And they say, what? You're a thief. Guys, you're a thief. And they were shocked. They said, what? We did not come here to steal anything. We came here to receive something. It wasn't our intention. No, we cannot do that. And they said, what? What if, what should be the punishments if you're the liars? If then they say, what? Whoever anything is missing, you find in his luggage, will get the punishments. And they search everyone's bag and leaves the youngest one the last. Then takes like anything belonged to the king, the minister, and say, you know what, this was the missing. So I'm going to, we're going to take him hostage here. He cannot leave. Now, the brothers, they promised to their fathers. They promised to their fathers, you know, what is going on? You know what? Second time. So how are we going to face our father? And the one young, so one brother, and he says that, you know what? I'm not going to leave this place. I'm not going to leave this place because how I'm going to face my father, right? Since we promised our father that nothing will happen to him, we're going to protect him. So he says, we're not going to go anywhere. And they said, you know what? Take one of us, you know what? Instead of taking as an hostage here, so why don't you take one of us? And he said, you know what? That is going to be an oppression also. So that is not acceptable. We're going to keep him here. Then Joseph. So they go back to Joseph, the brothers. So Jacob, their fathers. And the father, they told the father, so father, second time, he says, you know what? God is the one. Because of his excessive cry, and he lost his vision. He cannot see now. Because of Joseph. Now, another sorrow and pain followed up. Then he says that, you know what? I cannot do anything except reliance on God. And he says that this time, you know what? He may bring them back both to me. And they say, you know what? You're still dreaming about Joseph? Come on, old man, old man. Then he says, I know about God that you don't know. That's a divine knowledge that he has. Divine knowledge. Other people, they don't have that knowledge. But Jacob, he has that knowledge. Joseph, he has that knowledge. That's why he has a full trust in God. You know, when you look at the scene, it's so painful, so painful. But it is divinely designed that the end of it, it's so good. That's why, and I said, you know, in the beginning, everyone wants to be in Joseph's shoe. So at the end, but when it comes to the beginning, no one wants to be put in trial and tribulations. No, but the success does not come easily. Success does not come easily. When you look at the prophets, actually, not only Joseph, not only Jacob, except a couple of prophets. So David and Solomon, and you may say that they are exceptionals. The others, they went through a lot. And even, and I say the homeless in our time and age won't go through all these stuff. You know, they didn't have the best life. Always trials after trials, pain, sorrow. You know, they were not regular people, and the chosen people, they through a lot of difficulties and God test them and test their loyalties. So then Joseph is saying that, okay, let me open the Quran. So if I so the one brother stays there and he does not leave, and he's with Joseph, and he tells his other brother, you go and tell your fathers that your son, you know what, is a thief and he stole something. وَمَا شَهِدْنَا إِلَّا بِمَا عَلِمْنَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِلْغَيْبِ حَافِظِينَ. You know what, tell him, this is our excuse. That we did not witness anything except we have seen. You know, people took out from his luggage, anything was missing, and we couldn't protect the unseen. So whatever he did, it was done, you know, in our absence. You know what? The brothers later on, when they come to Joseph, then he says that فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَأْتِيَنِي بِهِمْ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. And he says that Jacob, إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. You know what? I complain, you know, not about God's degree, but I complain to God about what's going on in my life. He's the one who is going to fix it. And he says, I know about God that you don't know. And he says that, Ya bani yadhabu, fatahassasu min Yusuf. And he says that, go, all my sons, go and look for Yusuf. Go and look for Joseph and his brother. Do not lose hope about God. So this is very important. He's in a desperate situation. Both sons are gone. And after years, no one believes that Joseph's still alive, But he says, you know what? Look for Joseph. Look for Joseph. وَلَا تَيْأْسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ. And do not lose hope about God. And he says that, who loses hope about God? Who disbelieves? Those who do not know about God. But those who know God, they never lose hope. They know that God always in charge and control. So you cannot deceive God. You cannot deceive God. So you may say, so we may deceive one another. It's a human being. Right? We may do that, but when it comes to God, no. So he will expose you. So he will expose you. So one day, and you will be exposed. Then do not lose, and accept those who disbelievers lose the hope and about God. And when they came enter Joseph again, enter, and they say, you know what? Our family, مسنا الضر وأهلنا الضر وجئنا ببضاعة مزجاة فأوف لنا الكيل وتصدق علينا إن الله يجزي المتصدقين. So in order for me to, so I have to read from my memory first, in original text. And they say, you know what? Oh, king, just, you know what? Give us something. We're in terrible situation. Then he says that, then this time, and he confronts them and he says, do you know what you have done to Joseph? And they were shocked. And they were shocked. They said, are you Joseph? They were shocked immediately. And he says, yes, I'm Joseph. This is my brother. And they were speechless. But he's teaching a life lesson also. How to handle this kind of crisis. So he does not humiliate them. He does not humiliate them. Rather, he says, this is my brother. And God has favored upon us. This is God's favor. And he doesn't claim, you see the jealousy again. And he's trying to avoid the jealousy. And he doesn't claim that all goodness from himself. And he says, rather, it was God to give him that blessing, that position that he is holding now. And he says, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And he says, if someone establish a good connection with his Lord or her Lord, and be patient, and God will not waste the effort of those people. You know what? God proved me. So proved that reality with my position now. So I was in a desperate situation. Now he put me in charge in this country. So you have to learn a lesson from it. Then he says that, it's very interesting also. And they say, قالوا تالله لقد آثرك الله عليه. They say, you know what, by God. And God chose you over us. This is what they are admitting, even though we are among the wrongdoers. They are admitting. You see that he prepares the ground for them to admit their mistakes and trying to, prevent future problems. So that is the wisdom. So when you have goodness, this is what we are saying. So don't claim it from yourself, rather attribute that goodness to God, because he is the one who blessed you with that goodness. Like a couple of weeks ago, we had, Thanksgiving, not a couple of weeks ago, actually, like 10 days ago, right? So we had maybe more or less 10 days ago. So we don't claim any goodness from ourselves. We always attribute every goodness to God. So when you talk one another, so doesn't have to be siblings. Always the credit goes back to God. So we humble ourselves before every goodness. And he says that, you know what? No worries. You're expecting a revenge. And he says, you know what? There is no blame for you today. There is no blame for you today. Look at the caliber of Joseph. Forgiveness. So immediately he says, you know what? May the Almighty forgive you. Yaghfirullahu lakum. And he's the most forgiving. And he doesn't put them down and says, you remember what we have done to your brothers. And he says, you know what? This is my brother and me, but this is from God. This is his favor. And they admit, then, and he says, you know what? I'm not going to blame you today. Rather, he says, it was from the Satan. So later on, when he talks to his father, and he says that, Satan is the one deceived my brother. Deceived my father. And that evil he does not attribute to his brothers also. Look at, the humility, humbleness, and forgiveness, and the language that he speaks. So the way he speaks, he says, you know what? Satan is the one who separated us. So his brothers, he is trying to win his brothers. And he doesn't say, you know what? Let them go to hell. He doesn't say that. No, he's trying to save people, his brothers, from the punishment of the hereafter. So they can, return back to God and beg for forgiveness, repent. So he's preparing the ground for them. So that's why it's very important. Then, you know what, this is also very emotional, piece here. Then he says that, you know what, this is my t-shirt, and take it to my father and throw it on his face, and he will regain his vision, his sight. He will regain his sight. So doctors may not be able to explain, but no one will be explained, but that is a miracle. The one who gives the vision, creates everything from single, fruit, humble fruits. The Quran calls it, the creation of us was from humble, humiliated fruits that God created us from. And look at us now. We have eyes, ears, and everything, faculties that no one can explain. No one other than God can do this. But He's the one who will give you, your sight back. So that was a miracle. Happened. So, but prior to that, Jacob, he sensed the smell of Joseph, and he says, "Inni la ajidu ri'a Yusuf." You know what? I find the smell of my son Joseph. The hope never loses. Hope never loses when it comes to, strong believers like prophets, Jacob and Joseph. Then قالوا تالله إنك لفي ضلالك القديم. And they told him, you know what? People told him, you know what? You're still dreaming your old stories. You know what? Joseph is gone. You keep saying Joseph. Come on. When the delegation came and threw the T-shirt of Joseph on Jacob, and he regained his sight back. So this is what Quran mentions, and he says, "Didn't I tell you?" Right? Didn't I tell you that I know about God that you don't know? You don't know. So that's it's proven now. Didn't I tell you about God that I know, but you don't know? You have no knowledge. So that is God. So then the brothers, you know what? Their first plot was exposed. Then they say, "Ya Abana astaghfir lana." Oh, Father, just ask forgiveness for us. You know what? Ask God to forgive us. And he says, you know what? It's not the time, and I will ask forgiveness for you in the future. Maybe like at night, in the quiet time, it's a time of joy right now. So then, the family reunions takes place. Then they bow down to Joseph and all 11 brothers and mother and the father also all together. So that was the initial dream that he dreamt in the first place. But the father told him, you know what, do not tell your dream to your brothers. But you know what, unfortunately, he told his brothers. So then he thanks God. So I'm going to wrap it up, conclude in 1 minute. And he says that, everything is in best, situations. The family union happens, and, they have everything in terms of worldly materials. But he says, and he's thanking God, he says, "Oh God, make me die as a submissive to you. That is my last wish." This is Joseph is asking God, says, "And also join me to righteous people and make me among the righteous people in the hereafter, in paradise." That is his last wish. And he doesn't blame anyone. He doesn't become arrogant, and rather he's trying to win everyone's heart so they could believe about God and they could increase their faith in God. So, but the last wishes he says, "Oh God, make me submissive to your will, and also join me, make me among the righteous people in the hereafter." Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Imam. I think that, yeah, so thank you so much. We're a little bit pressed for time, but I would like though to ask if we can have 2 short question and answers. So anyone has a question for Imam? No.
I don't know what happened afterwards.
So, yeah,
So Joseph lives out most of his life, and not in his homeland. He's
Yeah,
not necessarily a stranger, but he's in another place.
Yeah.
Is that critical for understanding his story and his pathway?
we don't look at it from that perspective. So the migration, when you migrate, we have a saying that for the sake of God, you leave your land, even though it's not easy to leave your own land, and God will give you provisions that you do not expect. You do not expect. And also, we say a lot of empire was built in the history by immigrants. By immigrants. The indigenous people, they may not have that big vision. What happens? The immigrants, they bring their own experience from their, motherland, you may call it, and join it together with their new locations and coming up with better solutions, could be in business or else, in something else as well. So, but we say the land belongs to God anyway. So be it, Brighton or Pittsburgh or City, but we prefer Brighton, right?
one more question? Any question for Imam today? Late in the day? Yeah, Herb.
What part did God play in this other than being an observer?
Say it again.
What part did God play in this other than being an observer? It seems to me that Joseph ended up in the employ of the Pharaoh. What he did in the employ of the Pharaoh was not bring God to Egypt. What he did in the employ of the Pharaoh was get all of the lands of Egypt in the possession of the Pharaoh by taking the grain and selling it to the farmers, making them pay with their land. So he didn't spread God's goodness to Egypt at all. So what was God's part in this?
Actually, God is the planner of everything. So he's basically telling the entire humanity, that, anything you're going through, that any difficulties you're going through, first of all, like before I say this one, God is in control all the time. We, like as Muslims, we don't believe that, anything happens without God's knowledge and there is a wisdom behind it, we may not able to see it at that moment. That's a human capacity. But because we don't have glasses of divine glasses, divine teaching, that's why we may get stuck in the seeing, and we may not able to see behind the curtains. This is what is happening here. Actually, like when you look at it, that's why I said, when you look at the beginning of the story, it seemed like, very tough. But eventually, God gave Joseph relief, and also the entire family, and teaching the entire humanity, you know what? If you do any bad, you may think that you're temporary winner, but actually you will be the loser. You will be the loser. And who is the winner? The oppressed, Joseph. And he was wronged. The wrongdoers, they later on admitted, and his role, Joseph's role, also played a big role, that they confessed their sins, and also they did not do transgression afterwards. But you don't expect all goodness in this life. This life, it's the trial and tribulations, and it's like a schooling for everyone. And you will not find paradise, neither at the time of Joseph or Moses or Jacob, or in our time also. So you're not going to find paradise here. Paradise will be in the hereafter.
So this happy note, I don't actually know if it, I'm not sure it's a happy note. It's a note for sure. If it's not a happy note in this life, it will be in the next.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll all meet there, but not only there, also here on earth while we're still alive. So I want to thank you once again for coming and teaching us. I think that's every time I listen to you and to Muslim teachers about the Quran, I really feel like this is like a long lost brother. Speaking of Joseph and his brothers, right? That even though sometimes we are separated and we're praying in different parts of Brighton, let's say, or we are seen as we have a different group or different story. Really, when we listen to these versions from the Quran that are so similar to the ones from the Torah, from the Bible, but also, there's also differences. It's like almost like a midrash, right? It's almost like it's filling in the gaps. So, but then we understand that we're actually telling the same story. We're telling the same story, only maybe with different versions, and then eventually we meet each other, not only in our faith in God, but also in our culture, in our tradition, in the narratives that we tell. So I think that this is an example of something that leaves a taste for more. I really hope we find more and more ways to learn together, to learn from one another, and to collaborate between our communities. I want to thank you once again for coming. And we will now take a 3-minute break, 3.5 minutes break. After which we have another event here in this room, which is a town hall meeting with our president and a few board members, and I will be present too. The topic is President Elise.
Temple Emmanuel.
Right, so there's negotiations with Temple Emmanuel to be renting space from us and coming in to our campus, and there's going to be a chance to for people to ask questions, raise their concerns, get informed about this potential maneuver. I'll be here as well in the room if that helps in any way. So let's take a few minutes break and we'll gather and thank you so much for being here.
Gonna be here.
Gentleman.
Sorry.
Gentleman. Yes. We sat by sit too long.
Yeah. Who can take our photo? Then you can be the next one. If I post it on Friday, that's fine.
Yeah. That's on my
You cut your hair really short. Like a bar. Do you like short? Just try. You did it yourself.
And,
You look very, very native.
yes.
I almost didn't recognize you this way. I almost didn't recognize.
And I just saw something.
Yeah, it's nice. We had, my whole family are. My oldest daughter was, so their family. Thing going.
I don't know what you guys are gonna eat.
My son-in-law. My daughter was Boston, got married, lived in Boston for a while, then he went to. Had a very good job. Newburgh, New York, most of my life. After I retired, I came up here, because we had, my oldest daughter and two small grandchildren. We had. I'm up here, walking in the dark. Something was going out. We had some relatives, I just, this was, so for like 6 or 7 years. Light it up here. It's fresh, something like here. This is actually. I love I just want to live there now. My youngest daughter lives in New York. That's why I wouldn't want to go there. But yeah.
Okay, everyone who wants to be in the town meeting is starting in 25 seconds. You can, you want a mic, Elise, or are you
Yeah.
Yeah.
The voice is going.
saying ho 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 in the spirit of the holidays?
Here we go. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Is it on them?
Rabbi, I think the owl stopped working.
I know it is. Talk to the technology.
Yeah, tomorrow. The meeting.
So does that mean
It's not,
they could still,
No, they're not, it's still, I don't know, this is supposed to be on Zoom as well? I don't think, I don't think they said this would be on Zoom.
no,
They can still hear us possibly, what if it says you've turned on?
they
Yeah, it's on.
Yes.
Theoretically, these people, if they're still on, then they can.
there we go. It's back on.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. I'm gonna talk about, obviously, Temple Emmanuel. Lord Leaderman would like to say something first.
I would like to pass around a picture of the 1962 confirmation class of Temple Emmanuel. And I would like some people, see if anybody can find our temple members in it.
Oh, okay.
There are several.
And how are we gonna?
Oh, towards the end, we'll get it.
Okay,
back.
all
Okay.
right.
It's clearly evident if you look carefully.
So the ties go back very far.
Very far.
That was just interesting. Okay, so just a little bit of history, because there's not a lot to say about it, but about a year ago, Temple Emmanuel approached us and they said that they were looking for new space. They were checking out several spaces, but they have been at the JCC. I don't know how many years, if somebody else that knows that can tell me, but we're not particularly happy with the situation. I think they felt like they were constantly getting shuffled into different spaces, and they really wanted a permanent home for themselves, which all of us could understand. So they came here twice. I think we had conversations, and they were seemed like they were in a little bit of upheaval. This was before they knew that their rabbi was leaving. And they ended up getting a consultant. I don't know if it was a strategic planning, is that what it was? And so we didn't hear from them for a very long time. They were doing their internal work, and we just figured, well, we'll see what happens. And at the beginning of the fall, they had decided that they would like to enter negotiation with us. They had decided this is the place they would like to be. So for us, there are several steps that have to happen. We never said anything to the congregation because we had no idea what they were thinking or what was happening. It didn't seem like something to publicize at that point. But once they said that to us, that's when we sent an email to the congregation in September, so that everybody would know that this was a possibility and that we were working on it. Sorry. I've been coughing ever since the installation, so I don't know what meaning what that is. So we didn't actually have time to meet with them until November. It's between the holidays and such, so. We did meet with them in November, we talked about the different spaces. And, they had given us a letter of intent. Mark has some that he can pass out to you if you want to see. I don't know if he has enough for everybody, but, of what they were looking for and hoping to establish. So there were two things they were looking for. They're looking for space and they were looking for back office support. And, we have currently decided that we're gonna break that into two pieces. In that we have some things going on in our office that we need to settle as far as. And Mark can leave, okay. So we told them we would like to negotiate a rental space first, and then after we settle a few things in our office and get the help that we need, we're still working on completing our staff. That maybe we can talk about giving them back office support. So what they're getting, what they would be getting is there's a classroom right here at the end of this hall that's opposite Rabbi Katz's office, which they would use for their office or for meetings. And I should say, for anybody who's not familiar, that they have about 80 families in their congregation. So it's a small group of people, and in any given Shabbat, they say they get 25 to 30 people. So that, it's not a huge group of people coming in. So they were gonna use that classroom, and they will use this space for Friday night. This space for Friday nights. Their services start at 7:30. This is a lot of logistics, but we have worked it out so that they can start their service. And we can share our guard that's at our door. And then have that guard go to the other door, so when they start coming in, they don't interfere with us and they can come around and say, look,
Right in front of you.
oh, sorry. That's better, that's better. So we're working on logistics with them. Mary's still working out what we would charge. But I see this, and you can let me know if you have concerns, but I see this as a positive thing for them because they want a space, and it's nice for them. It's a Jewish space. It's a positive thing for us because number one, we're doing a good thing for one of our sister congregations. And also we, there's no way around this. We need the money. The money would be very helpful to us. So, that's. So that's pretty much what's happening. So we have more steps to go through. We have to finish what we want to offer them, but then we have to go to the board. The board needs to approve this, not because the board does not normally need to approve rentals. Mary, we had Bridge here for many years. That wasn't a thing that went through the board. We don't, every time somebody wants to rent space, Mary doesn't have to ask the board. You can do it, but because this was an unusual situation, we felt that it was very important for the board to have a say in what we're doing. So the board is aware of this, and I don't believe that there's any problem with the board as far as approval is concerned, but also it's important for the congregation to be aware. So, Jeff?
Just to be clear, you said this space, meaning your.
Yes. Yes. Oh, also, just to note that, the third Friday night of every month is when Bimban takes place. And so the Seattle Lodge is not available to them, and they have one Friday night a month that they don't meet, but they meet on the Saturday morning. So that little wrinkle is worked out because that Friday night will be the night that they don't meet, and they will meet on that Saturday morning. So, Lori?
What are the plans for the holidays? Because we're focusing on moving back here
Yes,
for the holidays, it's not even.
yes.
But also, their average is 25 families for a circus. What about their holidays when they have more and we have more?
We told them that this building won't be available to them for Right.
But even like, anyhow, other times, or, we're just like, overflowing.
I don't know that that would coincide necessarily. And there will be times that they will be asked to join us. I mean, it's entirely possible with those. Some of those events, they would join with us. So but they were not, they know that they do not have a spot here for a couple of days.
You know, special events, part of this, part of this is. Very nice.
That's a good question.
I didn't-
He wanted to know, what about funerals and bar mitzvahs? I think we haven't really talked about that, but
So what I know, is that it's.
Yeah.
Very simple, they don't have many, maybe if they have one bar mitzvah a year, they're lucky. So it's not really a huge commotion of people. So it's almost theoretical, however. Just like they can rent this space for a Shabbat service. They can, in the contract, I assume that Mary will have so they could pay extra, so if they need to use this for whatever. And if it's available, because if it's not available, then it's, then they'll have to work their schedule around hours. And then, just like they can rent a Friday night service, they can have a bar mitzvah here.
right, it is actually in the letter of intent, so.
Parking.
Parking.
Parking, well, we have more spaces now than we used to, because when we resurfaced the lot, they worked it out to, add more spaces along the side where the railroad track is, so we have 50 more spaces than we had. I feel fairly comfortable for Friday nights, that shouldn't be a problem.
Especially because we get here first, right?
Right.
How about kitchen use?
They will have space in the kitchen.
Yeah, but Friday nights, we do kitchen use, they'll have kitchen use. It
Well,
could be,
we have to work it out and work in a cooperative way. I don't know that they'll be using the kitchen after we're done with it for the most part.
well, yeah,
But
well, who's gonna, like clean up, who's gonna be, we're gonna do the cleanup for them?
no,
We'll pay Julia.
they're part of their contract will be paying for the services of the facilities staff. So they will pay a certain percentage of facilities staff. And then they'll pay extra if they are called in to do something for them that's not in the regular job description.
One other thing, if you decide to rent it, considering it's during Shabbat, there'll be another rabbi here and everything, would this have to go to a congregational vote? Do they have a right?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm
Would it,
understanding
in
what.
other words, here we're gonna have a situation where you're giving up space, okay, during service time, Shabbat service time and on holidays. Which is not the same as renting the space for bridge on a Thursday afternoon.
True.
That you can't compare renting the space for bridge or something like that. To giving someone a permanent space to take away from this building, which is not large. So wouldn't you expect, and there'd be another rabbi in the building, where who knows if conflict can arise or whatever, which is a possibility. Wouldn't you have to bring this to a congregational vote if you're selling, in essence, leasing some of our space away from the
I don't
congregation?
necessarily see it that way. I see that we have a board of trustees that people have elected to represent them, and those are the people that are in charge of making those decisions. I don't see this as a congregational vote. But what?
I said, why are we imagining about conflicts before this?
I mean, you have to enter things with a fair amount of trust and hope that we can work together.
It's not a permanent.
If anybody wants to be with a microphone for the question.
Thank you, Josh.
If you want to call.
Oh, I thought you had something you were gonna say. Lester,
What's the length of the term of the contract?
the contract hasn't been finished yet. It would probably be year by year.
Year by year.
So, yeah.
It is on.
It is on, it wasn't close enough. It was under for a while.
I've never needed one.
You wanted to send it.
Look, I go a long way back with Temple Emmanuel. 1948, when Temple Emmanuel did not even have a name, and Temple Beth David did not have a name. My father was a founding member of Beth David. And I remember meetings at our house for over a 2-year period, on and off at our house, of the battle between the very small Jewish population of Arundequoit. And it took 2 years to decide that there will be 2 congregations instead of 1, as was wanted. So I have a lot of things that I could say, but I won't. But I think there's several things that you have not addressed. Someone back here mentioned other holidays other than the high holidays. Simchas Torah, Shavuos. They are celebrated at a certain time. So one might want to think that certain holidays we would have combined services.
It's a possibility.
To save a lot of problems. The number 2 is you said they have 80 members. What is the average age of their membership?
I don't know that, but I think that they're pretty advanced.
They are very advanced.
You wanna say?
I know the demographics.
Here.
So the demographics of Temple Emmanuel, which is really a very small group. Most of their people, I think, 2/3 or more are very advanced in wisdom, but also in years, okay? They don't have a lot of family school age. They do have a small amount, much smaller amount of younger people, either without kids or young families. I believe about maybe 10 families that have children altogether. So it's a really very, very small group, mostly of young children. And then mostly of them are elderly, senior citizens.
Thus I gather that they do not have a religious school at this time. Number 2, I personally have a neighbor that was a member and dropped out just recently,
Dropped out of what?
Emmanuel.
Oh, okay.
I really have concerns whether or not they're even gonna get a new rabbi.
And so we'll have to see. I
Too
understand.
many have-tos here. I'm not opposed to this. But I think
What harm is done with us, to us, if they don't get another rabbi? How does that harm us?
I don't see them surviving very long at all. So
And
you
how
can
does that
say,
harm us?
how does that harm us? It doesn't. But really, I'd like to know what their thinking is as for their future.
Well, I understand that, but I don't think they even know, so. I see you, Laura, just there.
Just go down there.
Thanks, I just wanna say that I have a fairly long.
Right up to your mouth.
Okay, a fairly long and positive relationship, having belonged to Temple Beth David and been the education chairperson there. And, on a totally different note, there are a few families that there's no way for these children to get an education, and I don't see anything about that in the sheet, but I'm hoping that that's something that could be worked out. I just saw somebody from there yesterday and their kids aren't being educated, and I would hope they'd be able to join the school and that could work out.
Yes.
They'd have to hurry.
About that, when we met, actually, they have expressed an interest to explore the possibility that their children will join actually our school.
Of course.
And then that they will be paying, Temple Emmanuel, there will be a certain amount that they will be paying our school or our congregation for each child. And we were open to that. In other words, to the possibility that these kids could be educated in our school. I think we have to benefit from it, actually. Why not? And then, if a bar bat mitzvah comes, again, maybe once or twice a year, if they want to do it with their own rabbi in this space rather than with us, there's no harm in that. But a collaboration with the school is possible, and it will be an addition to the agreement, once that ripens.
I'd like to, just offer, just from what you guys
Out of your
said,
mouth.
just from what you guys have said, they are not taking anything away from us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right? This is space that is not going to be used on every single Friday night. And this is another Jewish congregation that needs help. They could be going into a church.
That's right.
When we lived in DC and went to a synagogue, we went to a church.
So did we, by the way.
Yeah, so isn't this a mitzvah that we are doing?
But still have to stand up. Or-
Whatever you want, Alan, whatever you want.
It sounds like what they're asking for is to be members of Temple Sinai. That's what it sounds like to me.
They are not, they have.
Wait, let me finish.
Okay.
They're gonna use all our facilities, they're going to be using Temple Sinai as if it was their own in a certain part of the space. Have anybody asked them if they would just like to join Temple Sinai and merge with us? Which it sounds like would be the perfect solution. They would be able to use all the facilities that we have here. They would be members of Temple Sinai. Sometimes temples have to fold, because they can't be going.
Well,
And
we've
so
seen
that sounds like the real solution to me, rather than this concocted solution that you come up with.
Well, wait, first of all, we didn't come up with it, they came up with it, number one. Number two, they are very dead set on staying as an individual group right now.
Maybe they can't.
Well, they're gonna find out, and when they find out, we'll be happy to absorb them as our family. But right now, they really. In fact, someone said at the meeting, they were talking about how people in their congregation wanted more programming. And I said, well, you're very welcome to join our programming and come to our, they said, no, they want us to do our own programming. So that gives you an idea of what the mentality is going in. And eventually,
Change.
we'll see what happens, but I agree. We all agree, but we can't force them to do that. They have to be.
So I wanna say that,
Basically echoing that, so the desire for them to remain an autonomous entity is, Alan, as you can understand, does not come from us. We have no need, Temple Sign does not need it. We can enjoy the rent money that they're gonna give, it's very helpful to us. However, when there's two entities, one is larger and the other is smaller, the wise thing to do, even if you, and you're all smart people, we can understand that 2 to 3 years down the line, things will look different. But the way to do it is by allowing that and being patient. And just, Alan, if you friendly advice, we should just all watch and enjoy the show. In the sense, and you see what I mean? So that right now, it's simple in the sense that they are, to my understanding, that they are gonna rent space from us. I'm not a prophet, I'm only a rabbi, I can foresee more and more collaborations that come from a place of we want to collaborate. So the school, adult ed, the other thing that I've already mentioned, shared back office. Okay, in the end, if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, just give it time. Say no more, and don't mention the M word. The M word, don't mention it, figure it out, they'll tell you, just don't, right? Just be patient. Just be patient. And it'll unfold in front of our eyes. That's just my friendly suggestion to everyone.
Leslie? Oh, I'm sorry, Shannon.
I just wanted to make a point of clarification. I've heard a few people saying that we are giving up space. And my understanding is that that's not what this contract is that we're still, when we need the youth lounge for something on a Friday night, we haven't automatically ceded our right to use our temple. Is that correct?
Bob's on his way to get Iris.
Oh, well. I'm not sure how to answer that because we have promised them.
Is 12 o'clock okay?
Yes,
Yes.
but like on it for Bimba, we
Yeah.
haven't, can't kick us out of our own temple and we're
No,
not
of
setting.
course not.
Yeah.
And that's not the spirit of this, and
Yeah.
this is not the spirit of this cooperative venture. And if you read this, letter that they wrote, you will see that they are very much interested in having a friendly cooperative relationship and based on trust and understanding.
I just wanted to clarify
So,
some of the things
no.
I've heard.
Leslie,
Oh, okay.
I promise you're next.
I want to echo what Susan had said about the spirit of
Yeah.
disagreement. I want to echo what Susan had said about the spirit of disagreement. And the idea of working with a fellow community, Jewish community in Rochester. I also want to point out, as Elise had said, this is a 1-year contract, right? So it's not 5 years. Things can look very different in 5 years. And in response to what Francine had said, I think we have to take our concerns, like the kitchen, what happens with the kitchen? And the contract is what we make it. We will draft this contract, right? We are the people leasing this space. So we're not using like a form contract. We can say kitchen guidelines. We have use of the kitchen on Friday nights, or we have use until 8 o'clock or 8:30, because we usually have the small ONET, but we also have big dinners sometimes, right? So we have to make sure that they're aware of those. Maybe we invite them to the dinner to join us after their service. But again, I think we have to note these things, not say, well, we'll figure that out. You know, we don't want to wait for a conflict to happen. We need to anticipate what could happen and we need to address it in the contract. We could also amend things. We could all, there are, you know, when you mentioned the religious school cooperation. I also want to note that we have members who, I think Liz, you said, there are people who are members of both. And I think we also want to look to them because they understand both congregations, some of whom are in the room with us today. So I think we want to note that it's not an us versus them. It's how can we do this together? So.
Laura's has her hand up for a long time.
And Elise, may I do too?
Oh, okay, just a minute, Joyce.
So I'm gonna stand by Susan and Leslie, who I work with in a lot of projects, so it makes sense we end up coming from the same path. The world is fraught right now.
Absolutely.
Not everything has to be fraught. We could choose not to make everything fraught. So this morning, we welcomed the stranger. We've been having an adult ed series in part to remind us that people we don't know are not necessarily the enemy or scary because they are different. This is a group of Jewish people, a tiny group of Jewish people in our own community who are asking for a home. My main concern, and I'd like to balance out this sense of what we're going to lose and what's ours, and this immediate sense of grasping onto our territory. My main concern is how do we show more generous hospitality than the JCC did? If their main issue was that they were feeling not welcomed, then my approach would be, how can we say to this small group of local Jews in Rochester, New York, for goodness sakes, this is the easiest challenge. You know, this is not immigrants from Sudan. This is, although we should welcome them too. But my point is, how do we say that to this tiny group of Jewish people in Rochester, New York, we welcome you. Please use the space that we're not using. Please use the spaces. And maybe we can come to your service after our service. It's a two-way street. If our service is at 6, I'd love to see what their service is also at 7. There are benefits to having 2 different congregations also, even if they're small. Maybe they have much more left-wing thinking about certain things. And we say, you know, oh, that's their approach to something. Or maybe they have much more right-wing things to certain things. And we say, oh, that's their approach. There's benefits to keeping our identity and staying together. One of the benefits is just mirroring for the rest of the community at large that we are capable of doing this. So I'm very grateful that this is being discussed, and I just wanted to add to the balance of the conversation.
Thank you. Joyce, go ahead, just a minute.
Yes,
Sure.
I apologize, by the way, for I unmuted and didn't know I was going to get a call before. I want to thank Laura for what you've just said. It's very much what I was hoping to say. What an opportunity. You know, we know what it's like to be a minority. And when we are in the majority, we get a chance to model graciousness, welcoming, and so I think I don't need to say more than that. Laura said it, and I would look forward to our having new relationships, learning something from them, you know, being gracious about whatever they can learn and participate in with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. Laura, could you bring the mic to her? Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanna, everybody knows me as negative, gonna be the other. So,
Let's see the other her.
you better film this. If we look at, first of all, I heard the word merger. You can't do that without the state, because there are assets involved, so you need to go to the Attorney General. It's a process. So merger is not something that they're ready for, or we would be ready for at this point. Secondly, the board is very gracious in this. And the reason I say that is that the law requires that any lease over 5 years be brought to the congregation. Anything under that is the board's decision. So the fact that they're even having this is credit to the board. They didn't have to do that. They could have just represented us and going ahead with what they wanted, but they've opened this up for us to have input. And I think there's been some significant input right now about, you know, how we're gonna use the kitchen, et cetera, and bringing up things that maybe weren't brought up before. And thirdly, this is a congregation without a home. They're Jews, they're Reformed Jews. What are we gonna do? Let them float out there? They need a place to come. We're talking about 1 year. I think we can live with 1 year and seeing if we can get along. And I don't think their entire congregation is going to come. So I wouldn't be worried about them using too much space. Some of them will drop out and say, this isn't a place I want to go, and I want to go someplace else. And, you know, if they're going to be in a rabbi search, I don't think they're going to be able to afford a very strong, high-powered rabbi. They'll be more like we have.
I learned from the Imam, but I can't say that. They know there are better people.
But I see them more as Havra, that will be using some of our space. I mean, if we formed our own Havra and went to the board, there'd be the same objections, I think at this point. I think it's something positive. I think it's something positive for the community. I think it's something positive for Rochester. And I think we'll decide what has to be done over 1 year. And if it works out, we'll have more members, and we'll be happier to have them.
Thank you. But Francine, I do thank you for raising the kitchen issue. I just figured we thought it would work out, but it does need more structure, and I appreciate that.
I wanted to speak about the history of Jewish Rochester. We have always been a city that is broken apart and come back together again, and broken apart yet again. How did Temple Sinai form? We broke off from another congregation. Right now at Temple Bethel, there are 3 congregations. At TBK, I think there are also 3 congregations that are using that building. It's very important that we be welcoming, open, and let these people come into our lives.
Thank you.
Really, from an operational standpoint, just to echo what Leslie was saying, all of the concerns that are being brought up are absolutely valid, but they're operational concerns that can be addressed and have a solution. You know, we not only do we have a board of trustees, but we have a building committee that can address spatial concerns and needs. So just to echo, what Leslie was saying, let's keep discussing, what the concerns are, and we will be able to come up with a solution. That's really it.
And we have an executive director who's working very hard to make sure that this goes smoothly, so. Shoshana, oh, Lori had her hand up before.
I just have a comment, which you probably already have considered in the contract, is just, we have certain safety protocols for our, whenever we're here, basically, and that if they are here differently than we are here, that we would expect them to also follow those safety protocols. And yes, we say, of course, but I think in this day and age, I think it's important to have that actually written out.
You're
so
referring to
that-
security in particular?
I'm talking security, I'm talking, general safety, and also needing to look at, and you probably already have this, we have certain liabilities. We have an icy parking lot, we have an elderly, people who are at risk. So I just, do they know where the, IED is? Do they know what would happen if, God forbid, somebody breaches the building? Those types of safety things that we've had at our synagogue, they may not have had at their synagogue. This is a new space. Those things need to be reviewed,
Right, for sure.
and we can do it as a very welcoming event.
Yes.
This
I think
is-
they're also gonna be required to have their own liability insurance, if I'm not mistaken.
Right,
So,
but things expand if things happen,
right.
unfortunately. So thank you for considering. I think that this will work out very well.
Thank you.
Mine's not really a question, but just if, as time goes on and it's 12:30, I'm at home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to bring up this concern. How do I get it in to make sure that it's all those?
Send an email to the office, or to Mary, because actually the first email that we sent out in September had a sentence, if you have any concerns or questions, please contact the office.
That was a whole
And
3
I think
months
she
ago.
got 3 comments, all of which were positive.
Right.
So we had not heard of any complaints about this all this time. So hopefully that's a. Mark's,
If I could just steal a comment as I walk over, I need to blame Esther Brill and co-conspirators for something. For the past several years, Esther's been talking about, radical hospitality as kind of the ethos of Temple Sinai. It originally had to do with the board greeting at the door. But I think it's more than that. It does mean that when you walk into Temple Sinai for Friday night, you're not usually greeted by one person, you're greeted by about 7 on the way in. But in all seriousness, it's an ethos that is starting to pervade everything we do in the congregation. I think as a viewpoint, it has served Temple Sinai extremely well in how we deal with new members, existing members, non-members, members of the community. At all of the events that Sinai has had recently, there's always a list of volunteers and they all do a fantastic job. And there's a whole bunch of additional volunteers who never signed up, who help out with things just because they're around. It's been this way with the kitchen, with setup, with everything that we do. This whole ethos has been serving us extremely well as a temple. It makes everything work better. So you can blame Esther and friends for this whole mindset. But
called audacious.
audacious hospitality.
It's a very interesting word, because audacious means daring, right? Changing, being brave.
But having seen it work in practice at every event and everything that we do, I think it makes it clear which way we should kind of view how we can make this work going forward.
I think Norm has something more he
Yeah.
wants to add.
I'm all for this. I'm all for this. However, it's the questions. Like you said, Temple Bethel and Birth Kodesh have had several. So has Temple Emmanuel been around several other places. The question is, why did they leave? Like you say, the majority of the congregation is older. Us older people can be very set in can be set in our ways. I think it would behoove us as to why they are leaving the JCC. If I am correct, and this is what I was told by someone, they did not want to pay for security guards when the JCC was closed and they were there. I don't know if this is true.
Well, they won't have a chance, they won't have a.
I'm just saying, these are things, I think the board is, what if they're in the kitchen and somebody drops a heavy fork into the garbage disposal and it breaks? Are we responsible? Are they? There's so many little things that have to be looked into.
Well, I agree.
That the fork, that you just can't go, oh yeah, it'd be great. I know the rabbi wants to expand the temple. We have done very well in new members. As the oldest member of Temple Sinai in this room or around, I've been a member for over 60 years. These are things that you gotta think about.
David has a question.
All right, I'll write down fork in the garbage disposal.
So I would say, look, whoever said, this has been done before. Many other congregations, Rochester and other places, we know the operational things can be worked out. There'll be decisions all along the way, and lawyers have written agreements between synagogues before to share space, right? This is not new. The lawyers have a list of these issues, all these liability issues, all of that. So I'm sure we're going to engage the right attorneys when we do this on both sides and operations people, and those details will work out. One of the reasons I favor this, among many reasons, including the money, is that an important part of temple life is just the vitality of the temple. And part of vitality is just having people in the building. The more people that show up in the building, the more kids' voices you hear in the halls, the more older people are sitting, having conversations with playing cards or showing up at services. Intention in the kitchen is a good thing. And you have so many events that people are fighting for space in the freezer. That's a good thing because it shows the vitality of the temple.
Buy another freezer.
Buy another freezer, right? But those are good problems to have when you're bursting at the seams. If there's not enough parking spaces, if people are, there's not enough room in the code rooms, those are good things. And that we will solve. So all the reasons people have said I support, all the problems I acknowledge, but we have the resources and the intelligence and the commitment to resolve all those things. And we get to increase our vitality. We took a big step forward in the last year and a half. Just the more programming we've had, the more people coming to the temple, we all feel it and we all show up more, right?
Yep.
And this will just grow. If they join the temple independently, but also come here, also come to Odegs, whatever it might be, that's all good. So I want everyone to keep that in mind. It's a good
Yeah.
thing to encourage.
Thank you, Gail wants to say
It's a cocoon alarm, it's efficient use of space.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I was on the board when Temple Beth David first came to us and asked about using our sanctuary. And there was division in the congregation about whether or not we should allow that for the high holy days. And I was a very ardent supporter of allowing them to use our synagogue, our beautiful sanctuary while we were at the JCC. And I think it's fabulous that we're being so welcoming to this community that needs more support. But I also agree that it's cautionary to look. I've heard through the grapevine that there were issues when this group was at TBK and that there were issues at the JCC. And I just think that it would be wise to find out what were those issues and negotiate them now. And in a very friendly, open way, like one of the issues is whether or not the security guards are armed. our guards are always armed. Will that cause them distress? Will that be an issue? So, and I'm not sure what the other issues are, but I just think it's wise to know in advance, so we can iron it out now and make sure that we're welcoming in a very genuine and secure way, that, we have a great deal of compatibility with them, and that we can be welcoming, but not, foolish in terms of some things that could develop into serious conflicts.
So you're right, that the security guard being armed is non-negotiable.
From my perspective,
From-
it's non-negotiable.
from the-
It's, right.
From the people who were granting the lease, it's non-negotiable.
So I just think it's better if we, do this. I think it's a great idea to help our brothers and sisters in the community and
Right.
welcome them.
They will help us.
Oh, sure.
You know, so-
But at the same time of looking into these issues and just, preparation is always better than repair.
Right, you're
I
right.
think the point that they said, attorneys, we need a very good attorney who is familiar in this.
That is
Even if
one of
you
my
have to
goals.
go- Even if you have to go out of the city of Rochester to find one for this.
That's one of the goals for this week, is looking into the attorney situation.
Who was the rabbi? I'm not probably, is this working, the best person to speak to this, but my limited knowledge of, the Rochester community. This is not like some monolithic entity, this is a group of people that's experienced changes over the years. They're from Arundecoit, much of the Jewish community migrated from Arundecoit to these suburbs, absolutely,
No,
no.
when I went to Arundecoit, there were 8 Jewish kids out of over 200 in my graduating class.
Wow.
It was just the opposite. In the early 60s, 70s, there was a small, in the early 60s, 70s, there was a small migration of Jewish families to Arundecoit. My family was one of the first. You can count on 2 hands the number of families in West Arundecoit at the time. My parents moved there.
The migration occurred, the migration out of the Joseph Avenue area. Right. Went a small to Arundecoit because the housing was affordable.
Correct.
The rest went to Brighton, and this is the 60s that you're talking
Right,
about.
I'm talking about 1940 when my family moved.
Can we have?
Yeah, it has to be on for it to work. There you go.
That's good and finish. Okay.
Arundecoit. People in our temple from Arundecoit are the new Karen Newman and Marilyn Thurston. So they can talk more about it. We actually have members in our temple who resigned from that temple and joined us in the last 5 years. Several of them who are fairly regular services and events people. So we also have members who are members of multiple temples, because with the way, quote, memberships have evolved, that's very possible in our community, and people like to keep the ties. So these are real people over a period of time when we all were hanging out here, although people like me were at other shoals before we found Temple Sinai. So my knowledge is Rose Levin, who's 103 or 4 years old, who is an Arundecoit person now at the Jewish, not the summit. And Rose had an adult bat mitzvah there. And the rabbi was Rabbi Michael Hesburn, a wonderful, special human being. Just one of those people, Zichrono Livracha, who tragically passed away, and it was a giant loss emotionally for that congregation. Now they've had Rabbi Dura Settle, who is a very, she's spoken here at Adobe, a very potent, brilliant person. She with Debbie Friedman co-wrote Misha Bear. So she's going back to England. Big choice. Abandonment. I mean, we know abandonment. We felt when Rabbi Till said she's leaving, we experienced, it's an abandonment feeling. So though, that's those people. It's a changing group of people. They're not a monolithic they. They have like different presidents. I think the president that you first might have spoken with is now a different person that somebody here knows, that I sat next to, yes. So Shannon knows the current president. So, and as I think people said, not clear whether they would be able to recruit a rabbi to come into this situation. I just found out from the Oswego event at Nazareth on Thursday, they have a cantorial soloist that I was not familiar with. So it's a group of people, but there's no they there. Cause it's really, really small. So it would feel like, I was invited to do a Yiddish presentation for them. Paul was there, at the JCC about a month ago. And it was just a group of Hamish people. That's all we have. With, I think, some, you know how hard it is to get committee chairs here and leadership. Well, you know, some people have probably been volunteered and they're in the leadership role and are having to deal with the situation. Of course, they want to be, you know, keep their feeling of connection. Because and it's just people, and it's a small number of people, many of whom are, well, you know, over 80. This is just one more thing in the changing whatever. So that is my contribution to local history.
Thank you.
I just wanted to recount the meeting we had with them. Early November, it was myself, Rabbi Elise, myself, Rabbi Elise, and Mary, yeah, their current president, their past president, their current treasurer, their past treasurer. And Norm, I'm pretty sure I was the oldest person in the room. Their president today, you were, your driver's license. Their president could be my daughter. I mean, so the fact that, you know, it isn't.
My granddaughter.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, to put a little human face on them, you know, they were just lovely people looking for help, looking for a way that they can stay together. Every possible problem we brought up, they said, we are flexible, we can work that out, we can change our schedule, we'll do what it takes. I left the meeting, you know, just so hopeful that this is an opportunity to just be a welcoming community to people who are asking for help. And I hope we can do that for them.
I think the board is
David?
Well, overall, I think it sounds like something very positive for everyone. I just would add, as a retired physician, if somebody came to me that had been to several other practices first, I would say to them, what are you looking for in our practice that you weren't finding in the other practices? And just try to make that clear so they didn't have unrealistic expectations.
Well, if you read their letter of intent, you'll see what they're looking for. They're pretty clear on what they want.
Yeah. And there was a question about, you know, why are they leaving the JCC? I mean, they made the comment that they felt the JCC was prioritizing higher paying tenants for them. For instance, the dance studio, the Draper studio. The Draper needed room, they got bumped. They didn't feel like it was a welcoming environment. They felt like they were a bit of a problem to the JCC. Like, well, okay, where are we gonna put you this week? Because we have some other more important things going on. So you can imagine if you were in that situation, not feeling welcome in a Jewish organization, you probably want to look someplace else too.
I just would say, let's not judge them for things we don't know behind the scenes. For example, Beth David rented at Earth Kodesh, as did Emmanuel. And Earth Kodesh wouldn't fix the lift up to the second floor where we were both located, and we had elderly people that couldn't come to services, so that's why, that wasn't really very welcoming on TDK's part. And that's why, Beth David had to leave there, and maybe Emmanuel, I don't really know, but I don't think we should judge on what we don't know, and as I said before, I have a long history collaborating with that congregation, and, had nothing but positive experiences with the people there.
There's something there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy about the way that we're discussing this, because I hear a lot of wisdom and a lot of positivity in the room. When people here were talking, it echoed this very same room in the same week that got you sick, at least my installation. That one of the visiting rabbis gave a beautiful presentation on Saturday morning, and as for some reason, the sentence came, "Have faith in God, but tie your camel to a tree." Right, and this is not my wisdom, it's a rabbi from Baltimore who said it. And I think that we hear both of it here, right? So I think that I heard a lot of people echoing, looking at this from a kind of like optimistic place of growth and faith and reaching out and hospitality and our Jewish values of you know, of being there for somebody else, and seeing this really as a mitzvah, and also just rising above our little nitty-gritty and saying, you know, the greater Rochester Jewish community, we can collaborate, we can do this, will be a good place for all of us. I heard a lot of that, but I also heard, you know, wisdom that isn't, you know, exclusive of the first one, that, you know, also tie your camel to a tree. Right, in the sense that, yes, attorneys should look over this, and then, yes, ladles in the kitchen is, because in the end, that's everyday life. So I think we have a lot of both, and it makes me proud of our congregation and who we are, because we're not just blindly going into this. I think we should welcome a process of continuing, because those ladles, you know, there'll be more of those in the next few weeks or whatever. I don't know how long it takes to actually do this negotiations. There will be attorneys. There should be a way for people to send emails, or to, you know, and maybe, you know, before the contract is signed, you know, another round of, like, for people to say, what if, in the end, you also have to take a leap of faith. And after all the attorneys have gone through and all the wisdom has gone in, to know that this is going to be okay. And also that, like people said here, this will be a 1 year trial, after which it'll be, you know, the ladle committee, the fork committee, whatever, you know, whatever works, whatever didn't work. So I'm really proud of the way that this conversation was good, conducted, and makes me hopeful that we're a good group of people with some potential.
When do you see this all working out?
In the next few months.
By
Next couple, hopefully before, they're ready to move in whenever we get it rolling. So, we'll see. I can't see it before February at the moment, because I need lawyer intervention. So, okay. Thank you all for being here. Shelley has something she would like to share with you before you all leave.
But that's Shelley. Shelley, would like the mic?
Oh,
Go ahead.
sure.
Hi, I'm representing the gallery hall, and we are selling cards to support fixing the gallery, accommodations such as space, use of different kinds of frames that have to be repaired, and we want to continue to be able to have different kinds of artwork, not only from Temple Sinai, but national, international artwork. And so we're selling the cards. They're 4 for $18. They're all from our gallery, and they're all beautiful. So I have set up a display out here, and on your way out, you might want to take a look. at, some of them, and if you don't buy today, just bear it in mind and know you can buy at any time. They're $5 for one, so it's worth buying 4. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll tell everybody.
Kelly, did you find out who that for in the picture?
Yeah.
Seriously. I understand you're in processing. Yes. So. Anyway, it's not me. I sent over. We're following got proposals from you. Yes, sir.
We'll talk about it on the.
They are doing all this themselves. Yeah. They like absolutely. And some of it.
Because I don't want to spend thousands of dollars in this,
Yeah, no, they're doing
in this amount of money. Things we make the original resources. See you later. See you later.
I just want to say, yes, the president is my.
Oh, please. Yeah.
I mean, we can end there. We're trying to understand.
No, he doesn't look at these.
You're right.
They're doing it all.
Different herb. Hi, nice to see you.
It's very nice. That's it. Right. On the way.
I think it's, yeah. Most of them
I just started. All of the I won't ask why.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Everything okay? Yeah, why? Here's your Tennessee. Where's your wife? But you know, we have a way to take
That's usually things I'm like, oh, you do this, and I'm like, no, I actually see that. And that's not
Thanks for your contributions.
Kelly's asking where I need extras.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the courthouse. Sunday morning before it goes.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Because I saw you trying. I mean, also, Jody has one of you here.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you got one of those letters. Looking forward to it. I know they're on.
They want to. They should be insistent about it. That they do that in the beginning, it's not going to work out. And we know that. I know. They don't get service, you know, what are they getting right now? I mean, because this is the same. I mean, I look at it as. It's older, but I don't. There was someone. She did. But I understand strictly. Yeah. They got to do that. That's a big building. Great turnout. Very cool one. Yeah, but then you go inside.
Yeah.
How's that? No, no.
Okay.
I do. This is Lincoln. I had that. Going around.
I'm worried about getting that.
Well, you're gonna get the test.
Right.
But it is, a lingering thought. At least, I mean,
More things just keep starting.
Okay, everybody. Bills. Bills.
No, I don't like that. And then on the behalf of that, we have people. Right. You're right, commercial, sometimes. Hey, somebody from there, got something in their lives that. Well, it's not. Yeah, I know, they really want to. Yeah, we're, not to have neighbors, there's so many. Yeah, like, yeah, that's totally. And I think how even. I know, that's the first time. It's 5 years. But then I was first, just look at the government, and my daughter. Right, got 80 members and 70 of them are over 70. Right, that's a big one, as it turns out, she was very well, but she. Was like 2 of us, asked them why did he just like don't do it, and so I did feel she they all.
With the kind of identity.
Sure, and the 2 of
Just
us.
like this,
Yeah, I think good.
Raise my hand, heard that.
Followed on the path, and right.
Yeah.
And so she really allowed me to get. Yeah, really.
You voted it up.
And I said, she's like, again? Like, she said, again? Yeah. And it was just the 2 of us. Yeah. And then we go find the. Yeah, really close to the door.
Sure.
Yeah.
They want it.
Yeah.
That can be very expensive.
It's very. Yeah,
This is the commercial, which I have been involved in.
Exactly, right, exactly, you're writing the lease. Yeah. So that's my. Speaking of the one, what's on, so it's the only one to. Yeah, thank you.
I was looking at.
Only for.
Working both sides, trying to get a social.
I'm saying.
I was thinking that. We want, we got to go together.
If you're. You write for me.
I agree. I agree.
Because one change in the lease, they come back here. The transit, yeah, the transit is. Right. And anything that's written in that becomes golden to the tenants, because they say, in my. You know, I don't care if you need it, if it was 20 people I said, right, the use of the kitchen is a big one, because they're in there, and there's somebody here doing another unit here, and they're gonna try to use it at the same time. You're gonna have a bunch of that really upset lady. It's not working.
Yeah, very good.
This is like. And.
Anyway,
And it doesn't. And you're not all gracious, but you're the finance person, yeah, would be great. So, anyway, salary. Did you feel that is Katie? I know she wanted it that. They don't have service earlier. It's like, yeah. Yeah, well. Well, it'll be a lot of their. Maybe 4 months. Just why I should ask that. Oh, you got me. You go to the party too. After this time now, excuse me. Right. How is that going? How's that?
We heard Mary report that she had a conversation with Mr. August.
You need it in writing.
Yeah, Mr. August is, we'd be happy to make that work for you and. You said was, what is
I think we can, and that's the third set of precedent that we can do.
I think you suggested that if
So, a lot of it is mindset, a lot of it is, yeah.
And yes, yeah, it needs to be in writing. And is there a book involved?
I have it on my covered, you know, like I was sponsoring and celebrating with, that's $10,000 there.
And I would like to see this is.
There's a lot to work on.
Yeah.
But, you know, the key is that everybody starts with the attitude of trying to. make it
Listen,
work.
I understand there are people that have complications, and how are they going to work this place of losing grab? That's their problem, I guess. To a fund.
It may not be a record, maybe we can.
I will donate.
You get a fire.
Right, Bagel, I'll donate.
Doesn't get all
The adults and fund isn't being used. Because all you need is someone saying,
When you're not.
we read that space, and this is because if we have the rights to the kitchen right now, we're doing a dinner, and all of a sudden they're the middle, try to do a dinner, you have.
So you had conflict like that? Well, yeah. Come into my.
Yeah.
They were talking about. They thought it was drop down and they were doing.
And what, for Mary,
Then got out.
what are you working on Mary?
And then
Mary,
you check it.
I get sick, you know, Mary's not always here.
But it says, do you want to donate? to-
Yeah, I mean, I could look, so yeah,
Yeah,
a month is
and it doesn't go to a doctor, it goes to the fiber. So we got to do it.
Yes, I.
That has to be done.
Yeah.
But like Jan.
Sharon Church thought she missed it, very in person,
Not
but
mention that, but the
the realities of making it work
$500.
and having a
People, we stickers,
That's
every single Friday night, and who's taking it and what it
is
is.
very big.
They wanna buy the stuff.
And if you do the two head, if you have conflict, it could be your health.
Yeah.
Let me say, let's say we just.
And then you can mind my Lord, and they're like, almost people, you know, like, it's nice to do something, fake, and it's like, more knowledge or whatever. And it's celebrating having other, and it's, you know, and then, somebody call them.
You're not that happy with the party, right?
Yeah, they're like big ideas, or little ideas, we had a whole, this is our.
And you know, you get.
How can you situation?
That was in my zone.
They don't know that.
If they
Their
became
contribution.
their members have a right, you know. You need to figure out things as a market, that whatever building, whatever work, floors, whatever you need. Of course.
No, like, they don't get it.
And I always say that, and probably, well, it's time for dues again. I don't know, the building's small, the big building, like, yeah.
Right. So we have to,
I
so
don't
yeah.
see them.
That's true.
Yeah. We're, you know. I find that it's a reality problem. It's not both me, no, it's all, this or that.
That will be there, son.
It's the details, I don't hear everybody, making a right.
Bye-bye.
If you have to go through, you have to be home every time.
So that's my concern.
people being unhappy, people stopping doing things that we like conditions and so forth, or we do lunches and stuff. I did the latest stuff, I'm not doing it anymore, nobody does it, it's all on for us, we lose. You know, I mean, Saturday morning is terrific, but you have Saturday morning, and you have these ladies say, well, I'm making my sandwiches here, and we're doing this, and we're doing this today, and we have rent that down program, sorry. And we're picking up a few steaks, and we're chopping and we're using knives, and it's good. And the 4 or 5 people who are coordinated to put a dish together can't do that, because we're falling over each other. Or we have a party, and there's 250 people here, and they have something else going on. Well, we told Mary that we're doing this. That's the conflict. You don't need that. If they were members, they would get to say whatever we're doing.
I think, those are all valid concerns, but
Yeah.
I do think, the willingness to make it work is there. And I don't think those companies, they understand that, you know, we have a normal flow of operations and they've got to fit into that. And they're not asking to displace anything we do to account everything. They really want to know, can we be here?
There you go. Yes.
A lot of you, that you've always been, and get us in as possible. They're coming at it, I think, with the right attitude, that, you know, they want to make it work, and they don't want it to.
You have a sink here, you have this here. Wondering if you could put in, small refrigerator. Okay, and this becomes their space to keep things, not the kitchen. That's a possibility.
We haven't talked about,
Yes.
any food storage at all. It didn't come up during our talks.
Well, when you're dealing with older people, food becomes an old. No, seriously. And they go, I left my cake here, my cake is gone, blah, 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 you tell me I could use the freezer. That's what I'm talking about. The kitchen really either needs to be off from them. Or being utilized on a time basis for a special occasion home.
And that's what we talked about, is how to accommodate their potluck service that they have once a month. That's the extent of what we talked about.
Well, they have the potluck here, there was, it's a little thing. But you could do the coffee here and put a small refrigerator here. Yeah, and they're using paper plates that might accommodate, might want to put in a higher, you know, thing, so you can stick a pot under there to clean it, something like that. That might work. Heating up, that's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, these are all possibilities.
Yeah, I know, but we're doing a lot to accommodate that bothers me. I mean, if they did this.
I don't think we'll have to change anything that we do.
I hope so.
I think that the spirit is can come in here and coexist.
I know what the spirit is, but when they're doing a move, that's something else. It's not a one day, situation here. So we can keep saying that, and we can keep saying that.
Like my last was